all of the jewels on the main characters are real. And Zeenat Aman, who way ahead of her time.
You have a queer character. You have a scene of kissing a girl.
My dad had the funniest response. He's like, "Ladki hai na, theek hai."
But there's also a lot of criticism. And a lot, I think, sadly came on Bhumi.
It's sad to see women do it to each other. I've lost many auditions to people who have a greater social media presence. Dharma's sets are so professional. But here it's like, nahi, actually, us sir ne bola to maine inko bola aur mere se nahi hua. So it's my biggest pet peeve. In America, you just say sorry and you move on. So Arijit Singh lives in Calcutta. He just wants to create. And then from the other side of the room, I see Chris Martin walking in. Chris Martin wasting his time talking to me. I don't know why. The biggest artist on earth is sitting next to you and telling you, just keep going. It's gonna be fine. kabhi mere dil mein khayal aata hai.
Fresh from the success of the Royals, we have with us Her Highness Lisa Mishra on Oversharing with the Jhumroo. Kaisi hain aap?
Theek ho, and it's a great way to start the day with this much energy.
There's so much of royalty, yaar,
excited.
all of a sudden in the room. First of
पर
all,
मैं तो आम थी उस सीरीज में.
कहाँ यार, मतलब आपकी look जो है, जिस तरीके की framing है, it came out really well.
They gave us a royal treatment. Yeah.
I really want to talk in detail about the Royals, but of course we'll talk about you being an independent artist. There's Teri Hoon also.
Yes.
Absolutely loved the sound of it.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you liked it. I can't wait for people to hear it. I think it's going to be a very good one.
Lovely. Let's begin with the Royals. Start with the basics. How did you crack that role? How difficult or easy was it to audition and then crack it?
Yeah, I think the audition process was one of the most extensive I've seen. They really spent their time casting everybody. And I think the reason was because it's a massive ensemble. So they needed every single person to be exactly what they had in mind. And it was wonderful. The whole audition process, you know, at some point it is exhausting to do so many different auditions, but there's a reason. They put you through this whole, it's like a test. So I did, I think, 6 rounds of auditions, and I was traveling that time. So I was auditioning in self-tests all over the world. And in like different countries, I've done different auditions, and it would come back with feedback that it's good, but it could be a little different here. Try with this line.
Can you change the tone, mood?
And can you change the outfit? So they had very, very specific requirements for this character. And touch wood, in the end, it came to me after all of that work. And I'm so glad, because when I stepped on set, I was like, wow, this was worth it.
So you're a great talent, amazing singer, and now of course you are, making a mark in the acting industry as well. But as you audition more, do you feel that your social media presence is also kind of scanned before you're signed for a role?
100%. I think a lot of what happens is, I was lucky that both of the roles I've done so far went through a legitimate casting process and was neck and neck with me and one other person until the very last minute. So
do you know who the other person was?
Yeah, in both circumstances. I mean, actually in multiple. I've lost many auditions to people who have a greater social media presence, of course. And not only that, but of course they were probably more fit for the role, whatever the reasoning was. And I remember during Call Me Bae, I was actually not supposed to be given that role because it wasn't the correct age for me. So Hadleen, the character, was supposed to be older. And in that audition process, they actually made the character younger just because they thought that the audition was stronger from my end. But they had never envisioned it on somebody who was in their 20s. It was supposed to be someone who was 35, 36, because it makes more sense. She's a producer of a news series, and, who would take like a 26-year-old or 27-year-old seriously?
Yeah.
But in those rare moments, they look at, if the audition is stronger, we can write around this person, which
Sure.
hats off to them and Ishita, Moitra, who wrote Call Me Bae, for being able to do that, and Colin seeing potential in me as an actor, because the person that was otherwise being considered has a much greater social media presence than me. So sometimes it actually
But how does that make you feel?
feels good. Feels good that they had an option to go with who was more fit for the character and potentially who could have gotten them more eyeballs. But somehow it feels amazing that like it came back to me. Not to say that I'm better or worse than them, but it was just for that specific role. Maybe
Sure.
they saw some potential. And that happens all the time. I always say that, it's like down to the last decimal point difference between two people. If it's a rigorous casting process, they're always going to have other options.
Yeah, can you explain to us, the commoners, how is it
The ums.
being a Dharma actor?
I mean, it's
of
a
course,
breeze.
talking about Call Me Baby.
It's a breeze. Dharma's sets are so professional. They're so timely. Everything runs so well. And one of my co-actors, Gurfateh Pirzada, he was telling me, you'll never get this first again, this feeling, because this is a Dharma set feeling. The treatment, the professionalism, the organization of it all, it was amazing. I mean, really, they are pros at what they do. So it was a dream. Like, being on that set was so, I mean, it was unreal for me.
Was it also fancy in any way?
I mean, I think it's just everything was fancy because it was my first. So I thought everything, like, down to, I remember telling Colin, our director, that, oh, the food is so good. He's like, this is very average food. And I was like, oh, but they have like a guy who's making chicken lollipop on the side. He's like, that's just set food. So everything was very, very new and surprising and wonderful for me. But I thought, in terms of just the professionalism, that was the best set I've been on. It's amazing.
Coming back to the Royals, as you said, it's an ensemble, but you also have somebody like Zeenat Aman.
Yeah.
I mean,
see, on one hand, you have a Dharma set, which is, running very smoothly. And then the other hand, you have scale. So what we had in Royals was a massive cast. And the scenes are sometimes 600 people. So the Raj Tilak that we did for Ishan, that was 600 people on set, and an elephant, and camels, and horses. And, everybody dressed in full costume. All of the jewels on the main characters are real. So controlling a set like that it's this like symphony of chaos. You have to manage everything and make it come together.
Sure.
And they really, really did justice to that. I think, directing is one thing, but directing scale is a different beast.
Of course.
And then, of course, you have this amazing cast, including Zeenat Aman. You have actors of such great, talent like Ishan Khattar, Bhumi Pednekar, people that everybody trusts.
Who were you closest to?
Bhumi, without a doubt, I think.
Because you had a lot of scenes with her.
I had a lot of scenes with her. And also because we just became friends through that process. And she's so kind. She's very gracious about her time. I don't know if that comes from the fact that she was in casting before, so she knows how difficult it is for a newcomer. And for me to be on a set with such big names, I was really anxious all the time. So she really helped me calm down and ease into the process and just told me that I'm here for a reason and just forget everything else.
Yeah, I can also vouch for that. Bhumi is the warmest person you'll
She's
meet,
very
and the way
warm.
she roots for you and appreciates
She
it.
really champions everybody.
Yeah.
It's
beautiful to see.
It's
that.
amazing. I think she could really just not care if she wanted.
Yeah.
With somebody who's, just a first timer, second timer on set with such big names. But she was so gracious with her time.
Yeah, let's also talk about the audience's response. And I'm glad that we talked about Bhumi as well, because yes, there is a lot of appreciation that the Royals got, but there's also a lot of criticism. And a lot, I think, sadly came on Bhumi, on the way she looked, her appearance, all of that came on her. Did you follow that? How did that make you feel? Or did you have that conversation with Bhumi?
I mean, as her friend and as somebody who is a massive fan of her work, it doesn't speak to her talent. I think, everybody knows what she's capable of as an actor. So I think it was just brutal the way that people have come for her in that space. And I don't know why we're so uncivil when we speak critiques about women. I think something happens to us as a collective when we want to trash somebody. It's specifically the way we brutalize and speak about women is just it doesn't sit well. It makes you feel sick when you read some of these things. And unfortunately, because we're reared in this society and we're part of this, we're part of the social fabric of whatever, this context is. It's sad to see women do it to each other more than anything else. I read a comment a couple of days ago from somebody who's not an Indian at all. And she said, I watched the series, I'm a foreigner. And it's so heartbreaking to see that most of the criticism about her looks is coming from women, and most of it's coming from women in her own country, because I'm watching this from my country and I love the series. I don't see what the big problem is. So I think, we could all just take a step back. The way that we antagonize and speak to women is just, it's just got to change. And it's fair to have critique about somebody as an actor, whatever. But to bring it down to such horrible words about somebody's looks is just not needed. And also, we accept every type of person and how they look abroad. We have no such scale for whatever someone looks like, as long as the work and product is foreign. But
And that becomes a standard also somehow. It's really funny.
And the irony is that you're, turn it back to India and it just feels like low-hanging fruit. Let's just bash this person because it's accessible.
I also saw some comment, or I don't know if it was a reel, but then they compared to how Ishan, being shirtless was so appreciated so well, whereas, Bhumi was criticized for her clothes or for her appearance. That spoke about how we look differently at men and women.
Absolutely.
And we say, oh, this guy is desirable. And the moment a woman owns
her desirability,
or sexuality, all of a sudden she's slut shamed.
We can't let women win. And I just don't know why. And the irony is this character is written exactly for that point to be made. That she is powerful, she is self-made, she's a successful CEO of a startup that is got a higher net worth than this royal family. And the irony of us, punching down and looking for opportunities to beat down women when literally the character is written to be opposite that. I mean, it's just glaring in our face.
Yeah.
I think it's the social commentary is not even got to be made. It's right there.
That's why we need more champions like Bhumi and Lisa,
Yeah.
who
and Zeenat Aman, who was ahead of her time, way ahead of her time. Still, she is. I think, what she's always stood for is women being modern, progressive, and championing them. So I think to be on set with such big presences, even Sakshi Tanwar, the roles that she's played, right, they really challenge the notion of what it is to be an Indian woman. So yeah. I was very moved to be on a set with 3 stalwart progressives of different generations and all pushing for the same thing, which is that women deserve better and we can be all of these different things. And, stop putting us in a box.
But was there any takeaway from these senior actors, especially? Mm-hmm. Because, you're starting out and you've done so well for yourself. But when you look at Zeenat Aman, Sakshi Tanwar, did you ask for any advice, or unknowingly, did they do anything which stayed with you and you learned? Can you share?
I think with Zeenat ji, you cannot miss her professionalism. And it became an unspoken lesson to everybody on set that you only survive in the industry with that amount of respect for that long when you're so professional. Imagine at her age to be wearing 20 kilo Abu Jani outfits and with tons and tons of real jewels in peak Loo and 40-degree Rajasthani heat. She would not complain. And she has every right to, first of all, because of seniority and because of her age and her circumstances. Maybe she wants a break, but she would just sit and wait for her take, not make any fuss, not trouble anybody. And I think that grace that which she handled the situation really was a lesson to all of us who are younger, who are complaining about every little thing. And I'm saying this for myself. The mild discomfort of heat or jaldi karo yaar, kab khatam hoga, that's, then you watch her and then you're like, stop complaining.
I had a similar feeling when I saw her on this event that Netflix had, and next on Netflix. I was like, she must have waited since morning, and then
were you there?
Here. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
When all of you came on the stage, and I was like, wow. I mean, at her age, the way she walked with so much of grace.
Oh, she's effortless.
Her outfit on point.
Glides.
Yeah.
And exactly. And these are heavy outfits.
Yeah.
And it makes us tired to wear these outfits.
And hair and makeup is cruel to women.
Yeah. I mean, and exactly. So it's not even that she's, walked on stage in that moment. She's been sitting for 2 hours in hair and makeup already. Yeah. Then getting in these costumes. Then she has to sit through all of this press and people and noise.
And shoots and then eventually coming on stage and being so graceful.
She is just a professional. And Sakshi Tanwar goes without saying, I think I learned how to be polite from watching her. She's just so soft-spoken and polite. She demands nothing. And, I think the big takeaway is that in that generation, they've suffered far worse, especially as women. So it's made them really resilient and really strong and really probably patient more than anything else.
But since you mentioned that, do you think in your industry, because I mean, for you to mention it specifically, she's so polite, but do you think it's a norm or kind of a normal thing to have people be rude?
I don't know if it's that. I think it's that.
But do you come across
I,
rude,
I don't.
outspoken,
I think we
harsh
come
people more
across.
often?
I don't know if it's intentional or because genuinely our industry has evolved to a point that it's very star centric as opposed to project focused. And it's bred, like I'm saying, not only in acting, in music as well, because I've been in music much longer. We have star egos for sure. And I catch myself if I ever am in a mood, in a foul mood, or if I'm, misbehaving or talking down or anything like that. I'm like, what am औकात ही नहीं है ऐसे बात करने
Did
की.
you ever throw a fit?
Absolutely. I think my fits are short-lived because I feel guilty immediately for having
But what
spoken
is it
that
for
way.
usually, if it is?
It's always for accountability. I just my biggest pet peeve is when people don't say sorry when they've messed up.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
just
know.
like, just take the accountability and let's move on.
Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes, but at
Yeah,
least
exactly.
address.
It's like, I don't care if you messed up. Just acknowledge that you messed up and you'll improve. But here it's like, नहीं, actually उस sir ने बोला तो मैंने इनको बोला और मेरे से नहीं हुआ and this that. I'm like, oh my god, it's just a 2-second I'm sorry and we can move on. So it's my biggest pet peeve, and then I've had to learn to control that with some patience because it's a very big change for me. In America, you just say sorry and you move on and you just fix the mistake. Here it's like, oh my god, I get a bhashan for 20 minutes about why it's actually not their fault. So that I think I've had to take a step back and be like, you know how this goes.
Empathy.
Nothing will change.
Empathy.
It's okay. Just let it be. You're not going to win this one.
Okay.
But I think, I definitely think we are a star-centric industry, and there's a lot of ego massaging. I'm sure that
baby ka juice lekar aao, baby ka juice aa gaya.
Yeah, it's very baby ka juice, the whole vibe. And I mean, like I said, speaking as a music industry person, we have these tantrums all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say same with the singers.
Yeah, big tantrums all the time, and I think we could all learn a little bit from the OGs that's just not how it flies, and you won't last long. Yeah. And the careers nowadays are shorter and shorter lived, and I can see a reason totally. I'm saying all across in entertainment industries. I think if we all had a little more, patience and a little more grace about this being a community effort, that, I'm not here interviewing with you today just because we decided this. There are people in this room who spent their time setting this up, making sure it works. So it's not just about me.
Of course. 100%.
But I'm saying this while I'm learning the lesson as well. I'm not above throwing tantrums. I've done that plenty, and I'm sure I will in the future. But little reminder to myself, it's not all about me.
Come back to of course. That's a great sensibility to have as an artist.
It'll happen. You'll slip up. You'll have a bad day, but be cognizant about. I'll
talk about your role in the Royals, but since we're on this conversation, any star that you met, now I'm talking about a singer, a rock star, or a performer that you met and you were totally taken aback by their humility or...
Everybody has the same story. It's Arijit Singh.
Okay.
I think he's just so... I mean, he's aware of who he is for sure, right? At this point, he should be. But he's so unassuming. He just is, he's like the anti-star. He's without a doubt the biggest name I think the music industry has produced after Lataji. I think that's an easy statement to make because his career has now spanned, above 10, 15 years, and it's not going anywhere. He's beloved. And, to be operating at that level and have no sense of pride and ego. He just is always in the room, in the back, quiet, doesn't want attention, lives in Calcutta, in his house, doesn't want the Bombay life, doesn't care for the noise and speed of everything else. He just wants to create. He's incredible to his team. He treats his people well. His circle is small. And he's unbothered with the stardom and the fame. He doesn't want to know everybody.
Yeah, but I'm sure it comes from a professional space only, but he has a lot of his videos where he loses cool, when the mic is not. Can somebody fix this mic? That's a viral video.
I love that video.
I also love that video. Can somebody fix this damn mic? But
that was a good viral moment. I will say I love that video. But I think he's just is a perfectionist about his craft. So he keeps his cool for everything else. I think star is somebody like, the star ego and stuff is like baby ka juice.
Juice kyun nahi aaya? Losing cool on that. Yeah.
Now if you're Arijit Singh and your mic is falling off of its stand, you have a right to be a little angry.
Of course. Yeah.
Totally. I feel like I would be.
We see you.
I do not want to be the mic guy that day because he's not having a job for long.
Coming back to your role in the Royals, I don't want to sound prude or regressive, and I really don't want to make a big deal about you playing
a queer character.
But I'll still make a big deal about it because
Go for it.
Because it's still not very common and people shy away from such roles. And then to have an intimate scene, to have kissing scenes, again, so many big leading actors, they shy away from intimate scenes because it'll change their image. And here you have a queer character, you have a scene of kissing a girl. Did that ever cross your mind, or were you not as aggressive as I'm sounding right now? But
no, I think it definitely crosses your mind because it's one of the first things they tell you when you get a character brief for an audition, that, hey, this person is queer. Are you comfortable playing that on screen? And I was comfortable. I thought my parents would be a little like shaky. My dad had the funniest response. He's like, "Ladki hai na, theek hai. Boys, you cannot kiss." And I was like,
that's a good approach.
My dad's too funny. He's like, no, you can't kiss boys. And I was like, "Those jaisi hai, theek hai." And I was like, okay. So I was like, well, the parent approval is done. So I'm good to go. And I didn't look at it any differently. I thought, so the journey of these characters and the journey of coming out and the difficulty of that, thankfully in this world, they don't really have to go through that because they live in a very accepting community on both sides, the royals and on the Ams. And it's very common, I feel like, in their world. So we don't have to do a lot of the journey and the self-discovery and all that. And it's only very subtle in Ginny's character that she's realizing that she could be, falling for a girl. And that's why it's never clicked before with the boys that she's been dating. And yet she doesn't have to live in a world where that's frowned upon, because this isn't the only same-sex arc in the series. There's multiple. So one great thing was when I walked into this role, I knew it wasn't being tokenized because they had more than one character in this space. And without giving spoilers if you haven't watched Royals, but I think
sure
it was
nobody who hasn't watched
I think
it
at this point everyone's watched
everybody
it.
Has.
Yeah. So because their own family has more than one story like this, I love that, we're approaching writing in this way where more than one of these characters can exist. And why not? That's actually our real life now. So, I don't have just one friend who's gay. I have so many. So I was like, okay, great. That's, not as, we don't have to approach it so delicately. But we can still approach it with the grace that it should be afforded, because these two characters, just like anyone else, are falling in love with each other. So I was like, okay, treat this like that feeling, the feeling of not knowing, and are they into me? Are they not into me? And the firsts of falling in love, especially for Ginny's character, because she's never had a serious love before. So I was like, okay, it's just like any other love story. It just happens to be gay. So that was nice because I didn't have to do much work of, the politics behind this, because in this specific world, that's not required. In another series, of course, if that was part of the role, if I had to be in a society that wasn't accepting, I would have to look at it at a different angle. But we got lucky here that, you just have two queer characters who are living their lives.
Yeah, without making any fuss about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did you approach the intimate scenes differently? Was there an intimate...
There was an intimacy coordinator.
Yeah.
We had an intimacy coordinator, and she was fantastic. She just had us run through some, basically they just have you run through what is and isn't comfortable for you.
Sure.
And then for us, it was fairly simple because it's a straightforward kiss. We're not having to do much more intimacy than that. And that was good. That made it a little easy for us. And it's simple. They kind of do drills of thinking of memories and then walking from across the room and getting progressively closer together. And then you don't do any of the actual kiss until you're on set. So that you have to say for that moment, you just make sure everyone is okay with what will be happening. So that's how intimacy coordination works. Obviously, otherwise we'd just be kissing, practicing. And we don't do that.
And if it's the co-star is your like crush or something, then
Yeah,
you
then
go
it gets
all out for
very
it.
complicated. And that's why we do not allow
Yeah.
kisses before we call the scene.
Yeah, jokes apart. But talking about love as an artist or as a singer, does love or love life or partnership, does it help?
Of course, I think especially as a musician, because if you're writing your own songs and if you're a lyricist, it's so important to pull from your actual emotions and experiences. It just makes your work so much more authentic. So especially because musicians are tasked with telling their own stories, whereas actors are given a story, unless of course you've written or directed the material. Musicians are always going to have this intimacy with their product, and if you're writing a love song, good.
So who did you
It'll
think
come
about
out.
while writing Teri Hoon or while making Teri Hoon?
You know what's weird? Teri Hoon, I actually didn't have a person in mind. And it came because I was so sick of writing heartbreak songs. Because mostly I've just been through a lot of heartbreak. I've not had many, if any, successful relationships. So I was like,
Are you in a happy place
I'm
in
in
your
a
love
happy
life now?
place right now. I think, I'm just not heartbroken anymore.
No, I meant in your love life. Are you in a happy place?
Yeah, I'm in a happy place. I think for a long time, I was just like drowning in like, woe is me. Nothing will ever work. Every boy's only hurt me. And now I'm just like, it's fine. I think I'm not rocking the boat too much emotionally. So I was like, I think I can write a love song now. It didn't, happen because I met somebody. It happened because I was over being sad. And I was like, why don't I write from memory what this feeling is like? Because I've been in love before. So we might as well think about that. And really, I wrote the song because I was missing romance in music overall. I think somewhere romantic ballads have just disappeared. And
Yeah, it's too much of dick chick.
yeah, and it's so strange. Even a slower song now is like produced with a lot of digital sound and it doesn't sound organic anymore. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying there's so much of it. So I was like, we come from this generation of like Nahi Samne by Rahman. And we come from, Tum Hi Ho, all these ballads. What happened? And I'm missing that sound, and I'm missing, just a piano or just the guitars and a voice and beautiful lyrics, beautiful melodies, big moments.
Sure.
And the last I heard that was consistently maybe about 10 years ago. And that was Bollywood for my whole life. And I was like, I need to make this again. I need to make songs that give you that feeling of this overwhelming romance.
You want us to cue the song or will we hear live?
We can do both.
Well, let's hear it live then.
Sure. This is the pre-chorus before the actual, hook of the song. And the whole theme here is, such an uninhibited and overwhelming sense of love for someone that you would do anything for them. So I'll sing you a little bit of that. ढूंढा दोनों जहानों में कहीं तेरे सिवा कोई नहीं मेरी तो सांसों में है लिखी तू ही तेरी हूँ हर एक हाल में पास तेरे रहूं तेरी हूँ हर एक सांस में साथ तेरे रहूं हाँ. There you go.
Wow, so cool and so good. At one point, you had said that you have a huge crush on Aditya Roy Kapoor.
It was so long ago. My crushes change all the time.
It has changed?
I don't have one anymore.
Sorry,
I require
ARK.
a new crush. I have crushes on all of the non-Indian actors because I'm obsessed with all the shows that are happening abroad. So we need to.
Because I was gonna ask if you thought about him while writing or while.
I know I'm over him. I need a new one. I don't
So
know who
sorry,
the crush is anymore. we need new crush material. You can't say Ishan Khattar because I had to see him every single day. At this point, he's just like your friend.
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, objectively speaking, great
Sure.
looking guy, but enough time spent together, it just seems like your brother.
Okay, but as an independent artist, you have worked on so many projects, songs, and for somebody out there who's starting out or who wants to make a mark, and they see these production houses or these labels as these big fishes, and I'm sure it's not
It's
very
daunting.
easy.
It's
Yeah,
very
it's
daunting.
daunting, and it's not easy as well as they say.
Yeah.
How does it work? How does this industry work if somebody wants to start out?
God, how
You
much time
start
do you have?
because you started out your journey majorly on YouTube, if
I
I'm not
did.
wrong,
I
right?
did.
And then you carved your own way. You've worked with big labels. This one is
Yeah.
also with one, but how does it work?
This one isn't with one. This is
Okay.
independent.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an interesting industry because there's so many ways to do things. And I feel like, the movie industry is a lot more simple in that sense because there's a sort of traditional way of doing things. There's a traditional way of marketing things and owning things. In music, it's gotten complicated because now people are making their own songs with their own composition, their own lyrics, their own production. And that obviously entitles them to a stake in the profit of that song. Traditionally, we used to just have labels be the distribution, and they would retain the rights of the song. They would probably, if you're a playback singer, somebody else would write the words, somebody else would compose the song, somebody else would play the instruments. You just come and sing, which is why the tradition was that you wouldn't be given a stake in the profit from that.
And by that, you also mean royalty.
Yeah, you don't get royalties in playback singing because the assumption is if the song becomes a hit, then you're endlessly touring and making money off of this, which you may have had probably the least amount of contribution other than your voice, because maybe the composer and producer, for them it took months and months to make that song.
Or the lyricist as well.
Yeah, or the lyricist as well. So they kind of look at it as it's a fair trade. I don't think it's a fair trade at all. I think that you should be paid for your hours, even if the song isn't a hit, because you're spending the time and the effort and the money to show up and do a job. And if somebody else is profiting off of it eternally, at the very least, pay for the billable hours of coming in and singing.
And also number of years that you've put in
absolutely,
that art.
because it's a disservice to say that just because someone is a singer or just a playback singer, which I hate that just, as if it eradicates the amount of effort that they've put in before that day.
Sure.
So I always thought that was really absurd, and then I realized it's also a very frustrating process because especially in Bollywood, you get replaced all the time. You might have dubbed something and then the day of the release, it's in somebody else's voice. I've literally turned on the radio and heard a song and it's like, oh, I sang this. And then I was like, I didn't sing this. It's someone else's voice. And it's ruthless.
But were you paid for that?
No, of course not.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so you don't get paid.
One is only paid when the song is released eventually.
Technically, you're never paid as a playback singer. You're paid on shows of your own, acquisition. Yeah, so you get paid only when you go and perform on a stage. And that's up to your management. That's up to if you're, even desired as a performing artist and someone calls you to sing. You might never make that money.
Oh,
so,
no.
Yeah, it's a very unforgiving and ruthless sort of a cycle, which is why this generation sort of took it on themselves to start becoming composers, instrumentalists, engineers, lyricists, because they realized that's where the power is. And who is making the money is the people who create the product. If you're not going to take me seriously as just a singer, you'll take me more seriously as the composer because you can't replace me. It's my song. I have a stake in all of this, right? And at the very least, even if you want to use another singer, I'll still get paid for my composition. I'll still have rights to the song. And I can fight for a certain amount in the royalties if I want to. Maybe not the case in Bollywood yet. Hopefully we start seeing that. But from a label sense, of course, you can always ask for splits and get rejected, but you can ask. And it's just become a little more democratized. We still have a long way to go. But at the very least, what it's done for musicians is it's made us all rise to this challenge of becoming more than just one thing. Now, I spent most of my life just being a singer. And then I was like, I keep getting replaced in songs, so I need to write the song. So then I forced myself to learn how to compose. You don't study these things. You just have to learn by doing. So I learned how to compose. Then I was like, okay, can I write in lyrics and then I started writing in Hindi. And for me, somebody who didn't speak Hindi when I moved here, initially I thought it was impossible. That I was like, no, I can do it. It's fine. It's a matter of just focusing. It's effort, just like anything else. So now if I'm the composer and the lyricist and the singer, try and replace me. Kya hi hoga? I'll end up saying, no, you can't have the song. It has to be with me in it. So that we're taking back that power,
Sure.
which I think a lot of us were powerless before.
But would that be your tip to somebody who's starting out, that, expand
expand your artistry
artistry?
from day zero. Don't come into the room and assume you'll be given any bhav if you just came to sing,
Sure.
because none of the decision making is in your hands then. So I really, really am encouraging everybody who wants to be a musician and who sees themselves as a vocalist that times have changed. You must learn an instrument. You must learn at least a little bit of composition, a little bit of lyric writing. Or you find 1-2 people and make a little group. What was Shankar Ehsaan Loy, right? What was Vishal and Shekhar? And what is Salim and Suleiman? These are all duos, trios, all of these people who are composers. No one is saying that you have to do everything on your own, because then it feels very daunting. Find a friend. You have a friend who can play guitar. That is now your guitarist. You have a friend who knows how to compose. They can be the composer. Then you can all sit and collaborate and own different pieces of the music together and release it. So biggest advice to everybody right now, learn everything and find your community and make music together with your friends. If you find it's too isolating or too much of a task to do it alone.
Sure. How was it opening for Ed Sheeran?
Mad. This year has been very bizarre, honestly. I think it's just been a magic sort of strange journey. I'll tell you, before Ed Sheeran, there was something else, which I have never said on camera before, because I just kept this story very close to my heart. After the Bombay show of Coldplay, there was like an after event, which was just a very small group of people having like food and hanging out post-show at the Coldplay concert. And I walked in and nobody was there. And then from the other side of the room, I see Chris Martin walking in. And I was like, no one's here. And then another friend of mine was like, oh my God, that's Chris Martin. And she waved at him and he just said, hey, come sit with me while I have dinner. So the strangest thing was this year began with me sitting next to shoulder with Chris Martin for 35 minutes, just talking about my journey as a musician, him giving me advice, like to my face, giving me advice, asking me, why do I think I'll never have a big song again? And he's like, you never know. His piece of advice to me, I said, the first song I ever made, that Ifan, was so big, it's very hard to get that.
Overpass.
Yeah, it's very hard to get a second one like that. He's like, our biggest song in our catalog is probably Fix You. And he's like, it took 6 years for anyone to care about that song. He's like, it didn't work. And then it was in a film or a series. And then it became this big thing that everybody loved. He's like, I think when it debuted, it was like 98 or 100 on the charts. And it took its time. And then it became the song that's associated with our band. So he's like, who's to say you released an album last year? This is Chris Martin wasting his time talking to me. I don't know why. He was like, you said you released an album last year. Who's to say one of those songs won't become a massive hit 10 years down the line? You can't predict these things. He's like, you can just do.
That's a great advice.
Yeah.
As an artist, you just need to create.
The biggest artist on earth is sitting next to you and telling you, just keep going. It's gonna be fine. You're already here and you felt this high and this momentum. It doesn't mean it'll never happen again. Because he was saying that, Yellow and their first album was #1 and they thought it would never happen again. And it took them years to get that second massive song. And I was like, okay, I have time. I'll be fine. If Chris Martin says I'll be fine, I'll be fine. So then I opened for Ed Sheeran and I remember just, we got very lucky in the sense that there were different opening acts for all of the cities in India, but
Yours was in Delhi.
We got the biggest crowd. So the luck of it was the audience size was 40,000 people. Yeah. And I walked on stage and I was just like, the nervousness just disappeared. I don't know how, but in that moment I was just very in control. And I put on one of the best shows of my life and we gained this massive new fan base of people who obviously were there for Ed Sheeran, but now I have 40,000 people at my disposal. Of course, I'm going to give them the best show of my life. And we had such a good one. And the great thing was the opening act until him is only a 30-minute gap. So right after me, Ed Sheeran goes on. So it's not that there's been hours in between if people have forgotten it. So my duty that day was make sure I leave them in such a high energy so that when he comes on, he has the best show too. I mean, without a doubt, Ed Sheeran's going to have the best show ever. But you don't want like a flop beginning and then they have to be like, oh, what was that? Let's wait until he's here. You want them to have two incredible shows. And the feedback was so good. Hundreds of messages came that day just being like, this was such a great opening act and we're so glad we went. We didn't hear your music before this, but now you have a new fan. And I was like, touch wood. It was like,
sweet.
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it because, you know, hardly, if ever, you're going to have that many people at your disposal. According to Chris Martin, I will in the future.
You will?
Yeah. But it was very cool to have that opening act with Ed. And then I talked to him backstage a little bit. He's just so kind. And he told me, so this was very strange. I won my first ever open mic in college singing an Ed Sheeran song, Give Me Love. And I told him about that. And he told me, imagine, this is 2 weeks after Coldplay. He's like, you know, I had the same feeling when I met Chris Martin. This is Ed Sheeran telling me, I had the same feeling when I met Chris Martin because I used to sing Yellow on the streets in London. And then one day I got to do a show with him. And I was like, what is happening in my life? Like, I've just met this guy and then this guy's telling me the same story about me, but it's about him. It was so bizarre. It was like all these stars were aligning.
Yeah.
So without a doubt, this has been a crazy first 5 months of the year. It's not even halfway through the year yet.
We can't wait for the rest of the months.
Yeah, let's see.
You,
I mean, we started really, really strong in 2025, so we keep going.
It'll go up only. And we had Shilpa Rao on this podcast as well, and she spoke about her experience with Ed Sheeran because she also opened. And then...
and they sang together.
Which
is so lovely.
And she also talked about how interested he was in trying new food as well. And he was so much into...
Ed Sheeran loves India. Yeah. He's been here so many times. And he absolutely loves India and Indian food and Indian people and music. And you'll see that because so much of his influence in his upcoming work is India-based. He got a tattoo in Hindi on his calf when he was here, which I think it says Neelam.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, because his album is called Sapphire. So he's made a tattoo of it now that he just got. I think he's so cool.
He's very cool. Okay, as we start to wrap this, we have a very tiny fun game. These are English translations of Hindi classics.
Okay.
You have to decode what these are. Okay, are we ready?
This is going to be so bad.
No, I think you are quite good with classics. We've gone through your YouTube. I mean, you're really good at those.
All right.
Okay. The lyrics goes like this. Come, let's live life because who knows, maybe tomorrow won't be.
It's kal ho na ho, right?
Yes.
Yeah, of
You're
course.
good at it. Okay. Sometimes in my heart, a thought comes like you were made just for me.
Something bane ho mere liye.
Think, Mr. Bachchan. Sometimes in my heart, a thought comes like...
Kabhi kabhi mere dil mein khayal aata hai. Oh, wow.
Lovely. First intoxication, first high. It's a new love, a new weight.
Pehla nasha. Ah, yeah.
I see God in you, my love. What do I even do?
तुझ में रब दिखता है यारा मैं क्या करूं.
So good at it. Look at the strike rate, dude. The last one. Tell me more. How many compliments do you need?
It's my song. There you go.
Lovely. You're too good at it, Lisa.
That was very fun. I'm very surprised I got those.
Are you too good at it?
I don't know why I decided I'm going to sing all of them.
And we won't complain, of course. Just to wrap this, of course, you've had a great start. Touch wood. And is there anything that you can share which is really big for you, which is coming and which we should be excited about?
I think definitely Teri Hoon because it's my first ever fully independent project. I've never done anything with my own money. All of the money in this song, this video, everything is my own pocket. So please.
And we hear the music video is really cool.
Oh, it's stunning. And the music video was directed by my DOP from Call Me Bae, Anuj Samdani. So we've come back together to do this. And it's absolutely beautiful. Without a doubt, the best song and the best music video I've ever made. And for the people who love Tarifa and Sajna Ve and all these beautiful, big romantic songs, fans of people like Vishal Mishra and, you know, your Shankar Ehsaan Loy, all these Bollywood pure lovers, are really going to enjoy this song. I guarantee you, just give this song a listen. It's my biggest project of my life. Make it worth it for me. And I think season 2 of Call Me Babe will be filming very soon. So we're very excited to be back on set with everyone and, relive our Dharma glory days. It's going to be a good one. And
some more chicken lollipop on the way.
some more chicken lollipop, guys. Only the gourmet food for me. And hopefully, given the public response has been very good for Royals, maybe we'll hear about a season 2 soon. I have no idea because they don't tell us these things, but I'm crossing my fingers that we get to see that soon.
We're absolutely excited. You're true talent, and it was
Thank you
such
so much.
a pleasure to have you.
This is so
on.
fun. I love this.
I am also like so glad that we had you and such insightful conversations.
Thank you.
Thanks
And
a
you
lot.
also asked a lot of tough questions. So I'm very happy that you went there, which is good.
I'm glad I could. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. With this, we come to an end of this episode. It's a goodbye from my side. Bye.